Why is it called thyme? Sounds like a very simple question. But behind this tiny English word lies a journey of thousands of years, from the Greek world to Latin, from Old French to English. And the most interesting part is that we may never know for certain where the original Greek name came from. There is, however, a fascinating theory. The name may be connected to a very ancient root associated with smoke, aromas, and even things that were burned during rituals. Suddenly, the little thyme plant sitting in our kitchen takes on a completely different atmosphere. Because this plant was never just a seasoning. Thyme has been a perfume, a medicine, a symbol of courage, a ritual plant, and for centuries, an almost constant presence in Mediterranean cooking. So why is it called thyme? And even more importantly, what did ancient people think about this tiny and incredibly fragrant plant? Let us start with the word itself. In modern English, we have thyme, but that form came after a very long journey. The English word comes from Old French thyme, documented in the Middle Ages, which in turn comes from the Latin thymum, from the Greek word thymon. And this is where the real mystery begins. Thymon was the Greek name for the plant, but the deeper origin of the word is still debated. One traditional explanation connects the name with an Indo-European root associated with smoke. The connection is especially fascinating because thyme is a strongly aromatic plant, and fragrant plants were also burned in ritual settings. But there is an important detail. This etymology is not certain. The proposed origin has been challenged, and some scholars consider a pre-Greek origin possible as well. And that is exactly what makes the story so interesting. There is no simple answer. Instead, we have a word that traveled through Greek, Latin, French, and English, while keeping almost the same ancient core, them. There is another fascinating linguistic curiosity. The Greek word thymos, written as theta-upsilon-u, was extremely important in ancient Greek culture. The word could refer to spirit, heart, will, impulse, and emotion, and in some contexts, even anger. But we should not turn this similarity into a false certainty by saying that thyme means courage. The linguistic connection is much more complicated than that. And this ambiguity makes the story even more fascinating. For the ancient Greeks, thyme was much more than a spice. Thyme was a fragrant plant, and fragrance had enormous importance in the ancient world. The plant was also associated with courage. Tradition tells us that thyme was connected with strength and the bravery of warriors. Even today, this association survives in the food culture and popular traditions surrounding the plant. And here we can imagine a scene. A Greek soldier returns from battle. There are no deodorants, industrial perfumes, or sprays. Personal fragrance comes from the person, the earth, smoke, oils, and herbs. And thyme, with its intense aroma, almost becomes a kind of personal scent. A modern source from McCormick preserves a particularly curious tradition, saying that a Greek warrior smelled of thyme was supposedly a compliment connected with courage. These are the little stories that make the plant feel much more human. This would be a good moment to bring an archaeological artifact into the story. Not necessarily a vase with the word thyme written on it. Instead, we can look at ancient texts, containers, aromatic residues, and botanical remains. By putting all these clues together, archaeologists can reconstruct how plants were used in the past. And there is one important rule when talking about archaeology. We should never confuse an ancient tradition with direct archaeological evidence. For example, many claims today suggest that thyme was used by the ancient Egyptians during mummification. But the archaeological evidence surrounding embalming materials is much more complicated. Researchers have identified numerous substances through chemical analysis of ancient residues, and identifying the exact plants mentioned in Egyptian texts is often far from simple. This kind of caution, in my opinion, the ancient world did not have the same culinary borders we have today. Herbs, spices, resins, and perfumes traveled through very old networks of trade and cultural exchange. Egypt, the Levant, the Greek world, and the wider Mediterranean were connected by ancient commercial routes. Today, archaeologists can even reconstruct the ingredients used in embalming rituals by chemically analyzing what remains inside ancient containers. At Saqqara, for example, researchers analyzed organic residues from 31 containers found in an embalming workshop from the 26th dynasty, dating to around 664 to 525 BC. This is the kind of archaeological evidence that allows us to say, we are not simply reading a legend. We are analyzing what physically survived. And that is a perfect line to accompany images of the archaeological remains. Then we arrive at the more amusing part. During the Middle Ages, thyme was credited with properties that were far more imaginative than the ones we recognize today. One of the most curious beliefs was that thyme could be used to keep nightmares away. Imagine someone in medieval Europe going to bed and thinking, "Today was a terrible day, but at least I have my thyme." And of course, thyme was not used only in cooking. The plant was considered useful, fragrant, and versatile, and for that very reason it became part of the enormous medieval world of herbs that were believed to have almost endless virtues. There is a recurring theme in the history of herbs. The more strongly a plant smelled, the easier it was for people to believe that the plant had something special about it. And thyme smells very strong indeed. Now let us finally show the main character. Thymus vulgaris, common thyme, belongs to the Lamiaceae family, the same large botanical family that includes many of our familiar culinary herbs. Thyme is a Mediterranean plant, small and woody at the base, with tiny leaves that are rich in aromatic compounds. And that is exactly what makes the plant so interesting. At first glance, thyme almost looks insignificant. Small leaves, thin stems, nothing particularly spectacular. But just touch the plant. The fragrance appears immediately. That is one of the most fascinating qualities of Mediterranean herbs. They do not need to be large to be incredibly powerful when it comes to aroma. And then there is the thyme we know today. The thyme that, almost without drawing attention to itself, has become one of the most important aromas in Mediterranean cooking. The character of thyme is unique. Not as aggressive as chili pepper. Not as sweet as basil. Thyme has something drier and more earthy, with a slightly peppery quality and an aroma that seems almost made for foods cooked slowly. Think of a tray of potatoes just coming out of the oven, a roast chicken, mushrooms sautéed in a pan, or a simple tomato sauce. Thyme is often not the main character, but when it is missing, something seems to be wrong. And perhaps that is its greatest quality. Thyme does not enter the dish saying, "Look at me." Thyme enters the dish to add depth. There is also an interesting difference between fresh and dried thyme. Dried thyme keeps its aromatic character extremely well, which is why it is one of the few herbs that can be used confidently during longer cooking times. A fresh sprig, on the other hand, brings something greener and more vibrant. After thousands of years of history, thyme is still there, quiet, and incredibly resilient. Perhaps it is no coincidence that such a modest plant has left such a huge mark on our cooking. And I would definitely keep one line in this story. Thyme does not enter the dish saying, "Look at me." Thyme enters the dish to add depth. And now we have reached the conclusion. We began with a seemingly simple question. Why is it called thyme? And we discovered that the answer is anything but simple. The word traveled from Greek to Latin, from French to English. Its deepest origin remains debated. And along the way, the plant traveled through civilizations, cuisines, rituals, and traditions. Thyme became associated with courage. Thyme was used as an aromatic herb. Thyme became part of traditional medicine. The plant became surrounded by beliefs and superstitions. And today, the plant is simply there, in our kitchen, A small sprig beside potatoes, tomatoes, or a roast. Almost unbelievable when we think about how much history can be hidden inside such a small plant. Perhaps that is the real secret of thyme. Thyme never needed to be big. All it needed was to leave its fragrance. If you love the history of herbs, tell me in the comments which herb you like the most and which country you are watching from. Thank you for watching.